Jarring 5:45 a.m. wake-up call for home Wi-Fi support. The digital alarm clock glowed a faint 5:45 a.m. in the pre-dawn darkness. I was deep in sleep, comfortable and oblivious when the sudden, insistent ring of the landline phone shattered the quiet. My heart immediately leaped into my throat. Who calls the home phone that early? It had to be an emergency, a family member in distress. I fumbled for the phone, but the answering machine picked up just as I reached it. A hang-up, then my mobile phone downstairs began to ring. Panic setting in, I scrambled out of bed and raced downstairs, my mind conjuring every possible catastrophe. I reached the foot of the stairs just as the landline started ringing again. Dreading the worst, I snatched up the receiver, my voice thick with sleep and fear. "Hello?" I managed, bracing myself for terrible news. On the other end, a voice I vaguely recognized spoke, completely oblivious to the panic they had just caused. "Hi, this is Guy you barely know. Do you have a second? I can't get my laptop on my home wireless and I really need to check to make sure my flight is on time." I blinked, trying to process the words through the haze of sleep and adrenaline. Who is this?" I asked, my voice sharper now, confusion replacing fear. "This is Guy you barely know," he repeated, as if I should immediately place him. "I'm a friend of other Guy. We met at neighborhood bar a couple of weeks ago. My internet's down and I remembered you're in IT, so I looked up your number and gave you a ring. Can you help me real quick?" The sheer audacity, the complete lack of consideration hit me like a physical blow. My fear instantly evaporated, replaced by a surge of white-hot fury. This stranger, this person I barely recall meeting once, had my home and mobile numbers, and thought it was perfectly acceptable to call me at 5:45 in the morning for home Wi-Fi support. "Are you completely out of your mind?" I roared into the phone, my voice shaking with rage. "Do you have any idea what time it is? It's not even 6 in the morning. You wake me up, cause me to think there's a family emergency, all because you can't connect to your home network? I don't know you. Don't ever call this number again." He stammered, clearly taken aback. Sorry, I didn't think you'd mind. I just... "Get lost," I snapped, slamming the phone down before he could finish. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the pounding of my own heart. I was wide awake now, adrenaline coursing through my veins, leaving me completely unable to even consider going back to sleep. Later, once the initial shock and anger had subsided slightly, I called other Guy. He admitted he'd given the guy my numbers the previous evening. I made it abundantly clear that this was unacceptable and that he was now firmly in my bad graces. The thought of inflicting a similar early morning inconvenience upon them crossed my mind. But, the realization that it would only disrupt my own peace and sleep prevented me from acting on it. Sometimes it feels like the biggest challenge in life is dealing with the sheer thoughtlessness of other people. 5:45 a.m. for home Wi-Fi support? That's just, wow. Talk about boundaries. But hey, while we're talking connections, make sure you're connected to this channel by hitting that subscribe button. The user who was sick but also not sick. The phone rang and I answered with the standard greeting, "Hello, IT." On the other end, a user began with a statement that immediately set off alarm bells. "Hi, I'm still off sick, but I'm not." I paused, trying to parse the contradictory statement. "Okay," I replied slowly. Did you mean to call HR, or is there an IT issue I can help with?" "It's an IT issue," they confirmed. "I'm back at work now, but the system still says I'm sick." "Right, the system thinks you're sick, but you're physically present." "Got it." "Okay, I understand the problem now," I said. "You're trying to log into the HR system and it's showing you still being on sick leave?" "Yes, exactly. I can't access everything I need to because it thinks I'm not here." "Alright," I had to explain patiently. "That means you need to go into the system and add your return to work date. That tells it you're back and unlocks your profile." "But I am back now," the user reiterated, a hint of confusion in their voice. "I know you are," and I affirmed. "That's why you need to put today's date, the date you returned, into the system. That's how it updates your status." "But I'm back now," they repeated, as if the mere fact of their presence should magically update the database. Feeling a flicker of exasperation, I tried a more direct approach. "Did you start back at work today?" "Yes, I'm back now," came the response. I resisted the urge to sigh. "Okay," I continued, trying to maintain a calm demeanor. "Do you have the HR system open on your computer right now?" "Yes." "Excellent. Can you see a field labeled something like date return to work or end date of sickness? "Yes, I see it." Great. Click the little calendar icon next to that field and select today's date from the pop-up calendar. But I'm back now, they said again. Was this a test? Was I being pranked? It felt like talking to a very polite, very literal robot. Yes, I said, my voice tight. And selecting today's date tells the system that you are back now. It needs that specific date entered to change your status from sick to active. Why? Can't it just tell I'm here? This sheer lack of understanding was staggering. How would it tell? I asked, genuinely curious about their mental model of our network. Well, I'm in the building and I'm logged into my computer. Isn't that enough? I took a deep breath. No, our systems aren't linked in that way. People come into the office all the time when they're officially off sick or on holiday, maybe just to drop something off or pick something up. If logging into a computer automatically changed their status, it would completely mess up payroll, holiday accrual, and sick pay records. Plus, we have many remote users who are never physically in the building but are still working. Oh, so how do I sort this out? They asked, as if I hadn't just spent the last 5 minutes explaining exactly that. You need to fill in the date field. The words were out before I could stop them. I immediately regretted my tone. Okay, time to take control. Look, I said, softening my voice. How about I remote onto your computer? It might be easier if I just show you where to put the date in. Oh, would you mind? That might be easier. Easier for me, quite certainly. Not at all, monsieur, I said, initiating the remote session. Once connected, I navigated to the HR system, found the offending date field, and clicked the calendar icon. Okay, I'm on your system now. I'll just select today's date here. And there we go. All set. So I'm back now? The user inquired as I disconnected. Yes, I confirmed, feeling a wave of relief. You're no longer being shown as off sick in the HR system. Just as I was about to mentally close the ticket, the user spoke again. Oh, while I got you on, could you reset my password? My heart sank. What's wrong with your password? I asked, dreading the answer. Nothing's wrong with it, they replied cheerfully. But I got that about to expire message when I logged in, and I don't want to change it myself. Can't you just reset it for me? You can change your password yourself, I explained, trying to steer them towards self-service. When you see that message, there's usually a link right there to change it. Or you can just wait, and the system will force you to change it the next time you log in after it expires. But I don't want to change my password. You have to, and I stated firmly. It's company policy for security. Passwords expire every 60 days and must be changed. Can't you just give me another 60 days on this one? My password is very secure, but an idea, perhaps a slightly mischievous one, formed. Okay, I said, leaning into it. What's your current password? They didn't hesitate. They rattled off a string of characters that, to be fair, wasn't the worst password I'd ever heard. Alright, I said, my tone shifting slightly. Now that you've told me your password, it is no longer considered secure. For that reason, I must insist that you change it immediately. But you work in IT. You knew my password anyway. They protested. No, I corrected them. Our systems store passwords securely. I can reset a password which generates a new one, but I cannot see or know your current password. Since I'm still connected remotely, I'll help you change it right now. I opened the password change utility. Okay, enter your old password here and then enter your new password in these two boxes. I watched as they typed. It's not letting me change it, they reported. I looked at the error message. That's because you didn't change it, and I pointed out, you just typed your old password in again for the new password field. But I don't want to change my password, they whined. You have to, I repeated, feeling my patience wear thin again. It's company policy. Passwords are changed regularly for security. Passwords are hard to remember, they complained. They don't have to be, I offered, trying to be helpful despite myself. Just pick a few random words you can easily remember, then add a number and a symbol like blue chair coffee mug 7. Just look around your desk and pick a few things. It's easy to remember that way. I braced myself, fully expecting their new password to be the exact example I just gave. Okay, I think I got one, they said. Great, enter it on the screen now. Success. The system accepted the new password. Okay, that's all sorted then, I said, ready to be done with this call. Great, the user replied. Alright, I'll disconnect the remote connection now. Sweet freedom was just a click away. I just thought, the user said, stopping me cold. Oh no, oh please, no. I've actually been back since last Thursday, they announced casually. So will that all be right? My jaw dropped. You watched me put today's date in as your return date, I said, my voice flat, because you told me you came back today. Well, I am back today, they insisted, clearly not grasping the distinction, but I came back last week. I closed my eyes for a brief moment. Okay, I sighed, reopening the remote connection that I had just closed. Go back into the HR system and change the return date to last Thursday. How do I do that? I wanted to scream, I wanted to cry, I wanted to go home and curl up in a ball. Instead, I just said, I'll remote back in and sort it out. Some days, you just can't win. The autoresponder apocalypse. 30,000 employees, one email, total chaos. This particular incident unfolded around the mid-2000s within a massive academic institution, a place employing roughly 30,000 individuals across various departments and roles. It was a truly spectacular demonstration of how a simple action, combined with configuration oversights, could bring an entire enterprise system to its knees. The catalyst was seemingly innocuous. An employee was looking for an apartment and decided to reach out to her colleagues for help. Harmless enough, right? The problem arose when she discovered and utilized a company-wide email distribution list. Something along the lines of all employees at organization.edu. This wasn't a small team list. This list encompassed every single person on the payroll. From the most junior staff member to the highest ranking executives, all 30,000 recipients received a personal email seeking leads on local rental properties. As you might expect, the initial reaction wasn't helpful apartment listings. It was the immediate, predictable flood of responses, messages like, "Why am I getting this? Please remove me from this list," and the desperate pleading, "For the love of all that is holy." Everyone stopped replying all, began hitting inboxes. Each of these replies naturally was sent back to the all employees list. Suddenly, that single apartment inquiry had blossomed into tens of thousands of new messages, clogging mailboxes and starting to strain the email infrastructure. Looking back, the first significant technical misstep wasn't necessarily having such a large distribution list. Those can have legitimate uses for official announcements. The core issue was the lack of restrictions on who could send to it. Allowing any employee to broadcast to the entire organization without a moderator or sender verification was a critical vulnerability waiting to be exploited. However, even this initial wave of indignant replies might have eventually subsided as people got tired or IT intervened to block further reply alls from external senders, which these essentially became within the list context. That wasn't the real source of the impending doom. The true nightmare scenario was triggered by the autoresponders. In an organization of 30,000 people, many were on vacation, attending conferences, or out sick. A conservative estimate would put the number of employees with out-of-office replies enabled at least around 20. When those initial thousands of reply all messages hit their inboxes, the autoresponders dutifully fired back. And because the sender created the original message, the list itself was included in the autoresponders reply. Each auto-reply also went back to all employees at organization.edu. So, every single stop replying message, instead of just generating 30,000 copies of itself, also prompted 20 additional auto-replies from vacationing staff, each sent to 30,000 people. The volume of messages escalated dramatically. The original apartment request and even the angry reply alls were quickly buried under an avalanche of automated, "I'll be out of the office until date" notifications. But even that wasn't the ultimate cause of the system's collapse. The fundamental flaw was the diligence of the mail servers and the autoresponders themselves. These automated replies weren't designed to send just one response per sender. They responded to every single email they received while the user was marked as away. And what were they receiving? Thousands upon thousands of other autoresponder messages, all sent to the same list they were replying to. A vicious self-perpetuating cycle began. Autoresponder A received a message from autoresponder B via the list, triggering autoresponder A to send a reply to the list, which autoresponder B then received, triggering another reply, and so on. The email system became a runaway replication engine, generating millions upon millions of automated out-of-office notifications, not just informing the 30,000 employees, but constantly informing each other of their respective absences. The sheer exponential volume of this autoresponder feedback loop overwhelmed the mail servers. They buckled under the load. The entire organizational email system ground to a halt and went completely offline. For approximately 24 hours, an enterprise with 30,000 staff members had no email communication whatsoever. The story, however, didn't quite end there. After a frantic, all-hands-on-deck effort, the IT team managed to wrestle the situation under control. They purged the millions of queued and delivered messages and critically deactivated the majority of the troublesome autoresponders. With the system stabilized and brought back online, their immediate priority was to inform the entire organization about what had happened, apologize for the outage, and explain the steps taken to prevent a recurrence. And how did they choose to disseminate this crucial information? They sent the update email to all employees at organization.edu. This brings us to IT failure number 2. In their haste to restore service and communicate, they had missed disabling at least one autoresponder. More accurately, they had missed at least 2. The cycle, thankfully on a much smaller scale this time, briefly flickered back to life, a final weary gasp of automated absurdity before the remaining rogue autoresponders were finally silenced. A stark reminder that in large, complex systems, even the smallest oversights can have catastrophic consequences. An autoresponder apocalypse followed by sending the fix to the same list. You just can't make this stuff up, folks. User demands immediate fix. The server is down. Spoiler, it wasn't. Another entry from the annals of the out-of-hours service desk. The phone rings late, the kind of call that usually means something genuinely critical has failed. I answer with the standard greeting, ready for a real emergency. Service disk, I stated, trying to sound alert and helpful despite the late hour. The voice on the other end was immediate, loud and aggressive. The server is down. You need to fix this now, the caller shrieked. Right. Okay, deep breath. Alright, I can certainly look into that, I replied calmly, trying to get some basic information. Which server are you referring to, please? We have many. The server, she yelled again, volume unchanged as if repeating the same vague term would somehow clarify the situation. Okay, this isn't going to be easy. I shifted tactics. Okay, I said slowly. If you can't tell me the name of the server, perhaps you could tell me what you are trying to do. What application or service isn't working for you? Trying to access the goddamn server, she screamed back, her voice rising in pitch and intensity. She was shouting the entire time, every single word delivered at maximum volume, and with palpable frustration. It was difficult to even think over the din. Ma'am, I interjected, trying to cut through the noise firmly but politely. Please, can you stop shouting? I need you to tell me which server you are talking about, or exactly what you are trying to do. The company has many different servers for different functions. I need to know precisely what isn't working so I can help you. Her response was immediate and dismissive. Holy crap, the server isn't working. The server isn't working. You are wasting my time. While enduring this torrent of unhelpfulness, I was already pulling up our server monitoring tools in the background. A quick scan showed green lights across the board, no alerts, no outages, nothing indicating any widespread server issue. Ma'am, I've just checked our monitoring systems, I informed her, hoping factual data might help. I'm not seeing any servers flagged as being down or having issues. Can you tell me which department you are calling from? That might help me narrow down which system you're trying to access. Irrelevant, she screeched. Fix the goddamn server now. This was going nowhere. She wouldn't provide any useful information and refused to stop shouting. I decided to try to identify her directly. Alright, can I please get your staff ID so I can look up your details? Irrelevant, she barked again, followed by an abrupt click as she slammed the phone down. I sat there for a moment in stunned silence. A call about a critical server outage, no information provided, and she just hung up. I documented the call as user called reporting server down, refused to provide details, hung up. About 10 minutes later, the phone rang again. Same caller ID. Great. Service desk, date, I answered, bracing myself. Holy crap, the goddamn server is still down. What are you doing about this? She was back, just as loud and just as furious. Nothing, I replied, perhaps a little too honestly, feeling a wave of weariness wash over me. There was a brief, stunned silence on her end before the shouting resumed. Excuse me? Nothing? What do you mean, nothing? I mean, I'm doing nothing, I stated calmly, because you still haven't told me which server is down or what specific task or application isn't actually working for you. I have no information to go on. You people, she raged. It's obvious my phone isn't working. I can't make calls. The server has gone down. You need to call your people and fix this. Finally, actual information. though the leap from my phone can't make calls as to the server is down was quite a jump. At least I had a concrete problem to address. And then I processed the fact that she was currently speaking to me on her desk phone. "Ma'am," I said slowly, trying to keep my voice level, "I can see here that you are calling me right now from your desk phone, her extension number. Is that correct?" "Yes," she shouted. "And this is the phone you are telling me you cannot make calls from, correct?" "Yes," she confirmed, apparently seeing no contradiction. There was a long pause from my end as I tried to formulate a response that didn't involve questioning her grip on reality. "Do you see why I'm having trouble understanding the problem?" I asked carefully. She ignored the question completely, steamrolling ahead with her original incorrect diagnosis. "The server is down, I can't call," a clearly incomplete 3-digit number. The final piece clicked into place. She wasn't trying to access a server, she was trying to dial an invalid internal extension. "Ma'am," I explained, trying one last time, that number you just attempted to dial is only 3 digits long. Our internal extensions are 4 digits. That is why the call is not connecting. It's an incomplete number, not a server issue." She wasn't listening. Her mind was fixed on her initial incorrect conclusion. "Listen," she yelled, cutting me off. The server is obviously down. I'll have my people call your people about this." And with another defiant click, she was gone. I sat back, the receiver still in my hand, and just stared blankly at my monitor. "I love my job. I love my job. I love my job." Repeating it like a mantra didn't make it any more true at that moment. Trying to dial a 3-digit number and screaming "server down." That's peak PEBCAK right there. What's the most basic user error you've had someone blame on the server? Tell us in the comments. iPhone upgrade quest leads to dramatic termination. Working in executive support for a large corporation comes with its unique challenges and perks. My team of 8 is dedicated to providing white glove service to high-ranking executives and their indispensable administrative assistants. This level of support means we often have the ability to bypass standard procedures. We can push through software deployments that might otherwise be blocked, expedite hardware requests, and communicate directly with specialized teams to resolve issues much faster than the general help desk. While we cater to the executive tier, there's still a hierarchy even within our world. If the CEO is on site, one of us is practically glued to his side, ready to jump on any technical hiccup. For other executives, while we prioritize their needs, it's not always an immediate drop everything situation unless the impact is significant. As the release of the latest iPhone model approached, we brace ourselves for the inevitable wave of demands. Our process is typically to prioritize the requests from the highest level executives, ensuring they get their new devices quickly. Then, we work our way down the corporate ladder, fulfilling requests, or sometimes having to explain that their current device is too recent to justify an upgrade according to company policy. So, on a particular Monday, a request came in from the executive assistant, EA, of a mid-tier executive. She wanted 2 new 256GB iPhone X models, one for herself and one for the executive. The executive's request was added to the approval queue, marked for eventual fulfillment, but the EA's request was denied outright. She had only received an iPhone 7 a few months prior. This denial did not sit well with her, and she immediately began protesting, arguing that she needed the exact same phone as her executive to effectively support him. Despite her insistence and escalating complaints, the denial stood. Her recent device simply didn't meet the criteria for replacement. Tuesday rolled around and a new ticket landed in my queue from the very same EA. The description read, "iPhone will not turn on, requires replacement." Attached was her original denied request for the iPhone X. Sensing a potential issue, I dispatched one of my technicians to investigate. Within minutes, I received a text message from the tech urging me to come to the EA's office immediately. Upon arrival, I found the scene. The iPhone wasn't just damp, it was visibly wet, dripping water as if it had just been submerged. The screen was also heavily cracked. The EA's explanation was simple, perhaps too simple. I was using it and it fell into my water bottle. The state of the phone, however, suggested more than a casual dip. We took the device back to our workspace and called my manager over. As we toweled off the phone, water continued to seep out from the cracked screen. The cause of the damage was painfully obvious. Fortunately, we keep a stock of spare devices for loaners or temporary replacements. I retrieved a perfectly functional 64GB rose gold iPhone 6s, a device recently returned by an employee who had left the company. We arranged for the SIM card to be provisioned for her, updated the device assignment in our mobile device management system, and I personally delivered the phone back to the EA. Approximately 10 minutes later, the EA appeared at the entrance to our team area, visibly enraged. She launched into a tirade, screaming that she couldn't possibly work with such an old phone, that she needed a new one, and that her executive would intervene and force us to comply. I stepped forward to address her, explaining calmly, "This phone is a temporary loaner, so you can continue working. A permanent replacement request has been initiated, and we will source a new device for you as soon as possible." Wednesday arrived and the request for a permanent replacement phone for the EA came back from approvals, denied again. The loaner iPhone 6s was now her permanent device. This information was relayed to the EA, who was absolutely furious. She made numerous threats about her executive hearing about this perceived injustice and repeatedly exclaimed her disbelief and how she would ever be able to work under such conditions. Wednesday afternoon, another ticket from the same EA appeared. This time, the subject indicated a broken iPhone needing replacement. Given the history, I decided to handle this one myself. I arrived at her desk to find the iPhone 6s in an appalling state. It looked as though it had been subjected to extreme violence. The screen was completely shattered, a large piece was missing near the camera, and there were significant dents all over the casing. I picked up the mangled device and trying to keep my voice neutral as to what happened. "This phone was perfectly fine this morning." Her reply was delivered without hesitation. "Well, since you gave me such an old phone, my case didn't fit it properly. It slipped out of my hands and fell down the stairs." I asked for the specific location and time of this alleged incident. She provided the details, and with the mangled phone in hand, I grabbed my manager and we headed directly to the security office. We requested the surveillance footage for the specified stairwell and time frame. The video footage was illuminating, to say the least. It showed the EA walking up a concrete stairwell. Upon reaching the top floor landing, she deliberately flung the phone downwards, like skipping a stone. It tumbled several flights, bouncing off steps before landing on a lower landing. She then walked down to it, stepped on it, and kicked it further down the stairs. It bounced off a metal fire door before coming to rest on another landing. She then picked up the severely damaged phone, used her fingers to pry off a piece, likely the chunk missing near the camera, and proceeded to walk back up the stairs, scraping the phone along the rough cinder block wall as she ascended. We obtained a copy of the video footage and immediately went to the HR department. Meeting with the personnel director, we presented the video evidence, the 2 intentionally destroyed iPhones, the chain of tickets, and recounted the EA's behavior and demands. The evidence of deliberate destruction of company property in an attempt to force an unauthorized upgrade was undeniable. The decision for termination was swift. Her network accounts were disabled and her security badge flagged for deactivation. The user had already left for the day when the decision was made. The next morning at approximately 7:30 a.m., the EA attempted to enter the building. Her badge predictably didn't work. She was directed to the security office, where the officer took her badge and escorted her to the HR department. By 8 a.m., the security officer and 2 members of the HR team were escorting the now former EA out of the building. She was alternating between yelling accusations and crying, demanding that her executive be called and claiming she was being framed. As they passed through the main foyer, which I happened to overlook from a second-floor balcony, she looked up, saw me, shouted a final curse in my direction, and was gone. Both of the destroyed iPhones, along with her company laptop and any other assigned equipment, were immediately handed over to the legal team as a precautionary measure, standard procedure for messy employee separations involving potential misconduct. Watching that unfold, the sheer absurdity and frustration of the past few days seemed to dissipate slightly. I think I'll buy my team pizza for lunch today. They definitely earned it. Destroying 2 phones for an upgrade and caught on camera? Unbelievable. If you enjoyed this, hit subscribe and tell me your favorite tale below. Thanks for watching.